Sundowns in the Champions League final next month. A first ever appearance in the Champions League final for the Egyptian club. Emerging from the shadows of Al Ahly and Zamalek, Cairo's third team are now very much Cairo's first team. 3-2 they win here, with Mayele scoring twice, coming from behind to beat Orlando Pirates and book their place in the final.
And so it was written that for the very first time in their history, Pyramids Football Club will be in the Caf Champions League final, asked to do it the difficult way this time around against Orlando Pirates in the second leg at home, going behind in the 41st minute and then just before the break, levelling. Then once again finding themselves 2-1 down in the 52nd minute, 5 minutes later finding a second equaliser, and then courtesy of their star man Fiston Mayele, his second goal on the evening, the goal that has made history for Pyramids Football Club. They are through to the CAF Champions League final at the expense of Orlando Pirates. And we're going to take some time to soak in all these emotions, both of those who are victorious and those who are beaten, and try and make sense of exactly what we've just seen, Sudesh. A game that really came to life after the 40th minute, and between then and the final minute, we weren't quite sure which way it was going to go.
Yeah, Lozi, I think it's just deflating, you know. You look at the players, the Pirates players, they gave their all, you know. We all here expected, we're on the way of a dream final in South Africa. Once again, a North African team is there. I really feel for the Pirates guys, but I think the turning point came, Pyramids, the substitute, Ramadan Sobi came on. I think that was a very bold substitution. For Pirates, I felt that maybe Rivero pulled off two of his key players a bit too early, you know. There was still a lot of time to go, and that took the momentum away from Pirates. You know?
I think you're looking at the expression from the guys. Of course, they've tried to give in everything that they had, which I believe also that they had the game in their hands. They controlled everything. They put themselves within the front foot, getting those important goals, just to put yourself, just to give yourself a breather. And you see with this reaction from the guys, they still can't believe, because of, I mean, up to this far, Pirates has they've been fantastic, to be honest. They've played the right Caf Champions League game. They were able to put themselves away, but also when they started, nobody gave them a chance. But they continued to persevere. They continued to win football games, which most of those football games were away from home. It showed also that they might also be getting closer to what they wanted to achieve. But of course, lesson to be learned. It's an experience. I mean, they haven't been in the Champions League for quite some time also, so you'd want to reflect and take the gains from this, gains from these wounds. Also, you would want to absorb this, and then of course want to come back again and try again. Then it might be a different picture.
Going into that last 10 minutes, Pirates were still in a position of advantage.
I think when you look at this game, you'd say the bench was very important. I think the substitutions that were made by both teams really made the difference. You look at Sobi coming off the bench, getting the goal for Pyramids, that was key. It's a man that comes off the bench to elevate the game to the next level. A good substitution by the coach of Pyramids. You look at the substitutions that were made by Orlando Pirates. We'll go deeper into it when we do the rep as to how did it affect the game. But I thought the substitutions from both benches really had a lot of effect on how the result came about.
At the end of the day, a 3-2 victory for Pyramids Football Club. They are through for the very first time ever to the final of the CAF Champions League. We are indeed going to take a bit of a breather on the other side of it. We'll have a look back on what was a wonderful game of football. 5 goals, plenty of storylines to follow, though. We'll be doing exactly that after this. And then there are only 2 remaining. The champions of the CAF Champions League for 2024-25 will either be Mamelodi Sundowns for a second time in their history, or for the very first time, Pyramids ascending to the throne. We cannot wait for that 2-legged final, both at the end of May and the start of June. So we've seen 2 absolutely outstanding semi-finals in the CAF Champions League. Let's start with the second one then that produced 5 goals, with Pyramids at home asked to not once but twice come from behind before their star man fisted my.
I think when you're looking at the phases of defending that set play, is the first phase they do well. The second phase they do well, but in the last phase, that's where Relay is positioned on that far post. He makes it look easy. That technique is not easy at all. He's leaning over the ball, that's why it doesn't go high. Good placement on the side. He gets goal number 11 in all competitions. To go together with the 13 assists, I think he's having a magnificent season so far.
He certainly has. Rele Mofokeng ends the competition with 5 goals to his name and a couple of assists as well. And just before the halftime break.
Coaching moment. The first moment is Pirates are playing a high line. There's no pressure on the ball carrier. That is the first mistake. The second mistake is when Fatih is on the ball and it's about to cross the ball. The defense is not open stance. When you speak about open stance, you see the ball and you see your man. And that's where the scanning in defense is. It's open stance. You need to see the ball. You need to see your man. They are focusing on the ball. They don't see the late run that is being made by Mayele into that near post, and he finishes well.
Yeah, certainly does. Does Mr. Mayele gets his 8th goal of the competition in that regard. And then we start the second half, and it's Orlando Pirates again.
Around the defender.
Yeah, these kids are quite all right at Orlando Pirates, eh?
Yeah, we mentioned it before. The youngsters, they did an amazing job. I think take nothing away from that. We've seen Rele has ended up as the highest goal scorer for Pirates in the Champions League. He's got 5 goals. So the youngsters really came up to the party for Pirates, great experience. I think I must agree with Manenze. He mentioned something, and I think in the earlier rounds, I spoke about it. But in hindsight, you look at Pirates, the bench, the previous window, December, January, should they have strengthened the team? Because you've got to look at coming off the bench. Are you bringing on quality for quality? But I think these are lessons to be learned, going forward. Pirates haven't been there for a few years. They're back now very strongly. They take a lot of positives out of this campaign that just ended tonight, in the Champions League.
Yeah, and a reminder from a Pirates perspective, there's still so much for them to play for domestically as well as we head towards the latter stages of the season. But it was 2-1 Orlando Pirates, and then from that point onwards, in Pumuzo, you asked the question.
The header will hit target. And there was nothing Sipochen could do in goals. Those are some of the moments that they need to learn from. To say, take away space and time, pick up, and get one on the cover. They didn't do it.
And a great finish, it has to be said, but were Pirates a bit guilty of switching off a bit? And I say this because it was during a period where Van Rooyen was coming off, Mali Deshand was being introduced. It didn't seem as if they switched back on immediately.
I think, then if you have to look at it again and again, you'd say, from a distance, it's a floating ball. One would say, one would want to engage to so because of, for sure, is one of their strongest header of the ball. And then try to engage them, have a duel or balls that have been thrown in the box, they've been questionable. And clearly now that is evident with this header, but a well-taken goal from Sobi is a very powerful header. And of course, the pressure that they were starting to give into the Orlando Pirates was starting to be a mount of a climb to jump on. So for me, that was a well-taken header from Sobi.
Yeah, Rosie, the important part here is Chibi. We spoke about him even before the game. You looked at the first leg. He's very, very dangerous from set pieces, or also putting those diagonal balls. And he did exactly that tonight again, once again. Manenze is right once again. They should have at least paid attention to him. He had time and space to ping a perfect pass in there,
Yeah.
And it's something we spoke about. It happened in the first leg. We spoke about it before the game. And it leads to a goal like that. But you also got to look at the inspirational change that the coach made, bringing on Sobi. Sobi in the first leg didn't play because he had a bit of a niggle. He's also one of the key players. He played in England for Stoke City. He's one of the most highly valued players. And he just comes on there in the critical phase of the game and gets a valuable goal,
That stage, it is 2-2. So then, if we say Orlando Pirates weren't quite at the races in defending that second equalizer, Pumuzo, take us through what you saw here as Fiston Mayele once again finds the back of the net.
That's a quality man. Good positioning in the box.
Also, I think for me, the biggest take would be then how then you allow Tito to be marking Mayele. Because I think for me, one of their strongest headers shouldn't be even Tito that's marking him. Unless, yes, you are going zonal, yes, you want him to be really disturbing him. But is it right man to be disturbing him? Maybe I would have had another, maybe a strongest header up against the strongest header, which at that time Mahele was their strongest header. So we need one key of our strongest header to be in touch with him because of, never mind the situation now, we just break away from the zonal marking and say, who's the strongest header, the strongest header, this is our strongest header. Then at least we're giving ourselves to defend our set piece, which is, it was the first phase which we dealt with. Then the second phase, everybody was ball looking.
Yeah, I agree with Villa because when you look at it, you need mixed marking. Yeah, that is what you need, mixed marking. So when you speak about mixed marking is you identify the strongest headers of the ball, 3 or 4, you man mark those. The rest of your teammates, then they mark the zones. Either they
There's been one guy that they should have looked at because of Ahmed. He scored the first goal. He's high in confidence. He's always going to be looking for anything now because of the momentum is really, really climbing with them.
Also, Razi, you look at both the games. One of the key things both coaches spoke about, the Al Ahly coach and the Pyramids coach, even from the first leg, is about defending from set pieces for the South African team. And you could see how they've punished. Pumuto mentioned a very important thing on mixed marking. One of the principles is the closer you get to the goal, it must be tighter marking.
Yeah.
So you can mark the zones out there, but once you're here, it must be tight, man to man. And you can see the first header that came in was from the short guy, Sadiq, the Nigerian guy. He's one of the shortest guys, but he got there and China made the save and Mayele came back and got the rebound, So the marking there has got to be tight.
Yeah, and it's perhaps that much more disappointing from an Orlando Pirates outfit that defensively has really covered themselves with plenty of glory leading up to today. Let's then quickly head back to Kofifi out in Soweto to find out from the fans exactly what they felt after that final whistle. Is it a case of perhaps, yes, defeat, but plenty to take out of it? That's what we feel here in studio. Zelande?
Gentlemen, it was a sweet beginning, but a better ending to this match. Caf Champions League second leg. How are you guys feeling about the entire match, the performance?
I'm honestly disappointed with the results. We played very well. We created chances. At 2-1, I thought actually we will wrap the game up and park the bus, which is not the right thing to do, but we parked the bus, we climbed the results. Even at 2-2, I still thought we will get the result. But unfortunately, the lapse of concentration, we considered during the set piece. And it happens. I think we have to learn from this game. Now we have to look forward to the league and the Nedbank Cup. There's nothing else that we can do in the Caf Champions League. It hurts, but we have to move forward and make sure that we pull our socks up. We'll be there at Orlando on Wednesday when we play Skukune. Let's come and support the boys. They've done so very well. It's unfortunate that Jose will leave without the Caf Champions League, but he has done very well for the team.
And any words from your side?
No, I think the boys obviously is so disappointed, but the boys need to be proud of themselves, the coach, the technical team. I mean, you talk about Mohau, we're talking about a very young player here who's just introduced into the senior team. This is his second season. I mean, for them to go out there in Egypt, in Cairo, and score 2 goals, I mean, Coco Melons, they should be proud of themselves and will definitely be, we'll wait for them in our Tambo. I mean, they are soldiers, they fought. You talk about Mahopa, he fought throughout the match. He saved us even with a header. Everyone was on the game. But if the gods of football are saying no, who are we not to say yes over him? If God has... This is the day that was not made for us. Remember, we cannot force results. We do everything in our power and disposal, as human beings can do, but we cannot supersede what is written on the wall or what is written on the cloud. So the boys need to be proud of themselves, the coach, the technical team, the owner, Chairman Pumi Koza, Dr. Ivan Koza, our chairman, the leadership and our fans. We've rallied behind these boys. They deserve our love and support, especially during this time. If there's a time where I love Pirates more, it's now.
I love that so much. If there's ever a time that we have to love our club, it's now. How are you feeling about that? How did you feel about the entire performance of the club? And what are you looking forward to after this defeat?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. First and foremost, I'd like to say that the boys really played out well.
I really enjoyed the performance. From a neutral perspective, I'm not a Pirates fan, guys. I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm of course, but I was here supporting our Soweto brothers. Of course, no, I was hoping for an all South African final. Unfortunately, that didn't come to pass. But I'm happy with the boys' performance. This is a moment that we can all be proud of. First defeat in the Caf Champions League, and hey man, unfortunately the boys played their hearts out. So from a neutral perspective, it was a really great, brilliant game. Looking forward to the next game against the Chiefs. Yay! We'll be nervous, but we will be there. We will walk up. Coach Nabi, I hope will be there. But unfortunately for the defeat, guys, this is a performance that everybody can be proud of. And yeah, I'd just like to send that out to the Buccaneers out there. That please don't feel sad about the defeat. Of course.
But I love that so much. But
I'm promoting peace, love, and stability.
Peace, love, and stability.
There you are.
I love that so much. But yeah, man, we're looking to watch the boys play. We're looking to having them back and supporting them even more for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much to Zenandi. And good to hear from Orlando Pirates fans that, yeah, not all lost. There is still the Betway Premiership for them to focus on both midweek and indeed around about this time next week they'll be thinking about that big Soweto derby. But first, I have to, before we wrap this Pyramids and Pirates chat up, let's quickly have a conversation about Coach Jurcic. He is history making. He's brought a bit of sort of fresh air, a breath of fresh air at the very least to this competition, and been rewarded with a place in the final.
Also, yeah, take nothing away from Pyramids. Yes. They top of the log in the Egyptian Premier League. They play Zamalek in the cup final in a week's time. So you can see why they're the best team in the Egyptian Premier League at the moment. I mean, you look at the players today, and the coach you rightfully mentioned, he's done an amazing job. Yeah. You look at them in the group stages, how they played at home. They beat Asfar there in Cairo 4-1, you know. And they did it today without the outstanding player Adel Ibrahim. Yeah. But they've got so much quality in there. I think Manenza mentioned that you can leave a guy like Sobi on the bench and bring him on and he changes the game. So it shows they have the depth. They brought in a very experienced Amar Gabar, you know, the last 5 minutes to come and close out the defense. So you can see the depth they have in not just on the field, but also on the bench. So it's a quality team, you know.
I think a good tactician. Yeah. I think in the first leg he showed his quality. I think the game plan to come to Orlando and try and attack. I looked at him at Orlando and the substitutions that he made in the game. I thought, wow, there's a game at our hands here with Pyramids. He comes here now at home. I always speak about the coach's influence. Coach's influence is when you turn around, look at your bench, and bring somebody on from the bench and elevates the game to the next level. That's what happened with Sobi. Yeah. And when he gets the goal, he's coming off the bench. Yeah. Sadiq, the Nigerian that gets the first header, he's coming off the bench. China saves, reacts Mayele, puts it in the back of the net. I think tactically I need to give him his flowers to say good game plan and good execution from his team.
Those with a bit of an uneducated eye might look at these two semi-finals and look at the two names and feel that maybe, just maybe, it's all said and done. Sundowns are winning this competition, but this team would have plenty to say about that.
Definitely. I think I remember even through his post interview when he said Pirates were good, but Pyramids are great. And then certainly today he backed it up. He backed it up, of course, with the changes that he had made. Guys like Mayele also standing up, also putting their hands up and saying we're backing the coach. But more than anything, it's new faces to the Champions League. They have ambitions, and they've shown that, of course, leading up to this, they've scored 18 goals. You add the 3 today, it's like 21 goals in total, because you can see the intentions of the team. They are really, really striving for that crown. They want that crown, and it's not going to be an easy one for Mamelodi Sundowns.
Yeah, that is 7 wins in succession at home now for Pyramids. They are looking ahead to not only the Egyptian Cup final, but also the end of the Egyptian Premier League, where they're still top of the standings. And then, of course, that big Caf Champions League final against Mamelodi Sundowns. Speaking of Masandawana, a little earlier on, they were also asked to do it in the most difficult of ways, because going into the final stanza, the final sort of 20 minutes or so, it looked as if it was...
Like Musa also, I think you really want to get closer to Naid. You want to get closer to him so that he doesn't have that space and the luxury to run to that ball. So that's whereby the organization happens. And of course, you know, for sure on the other side, there's a mess. There's a mess because Mudiba has really giving you width, hoping that that progression of the ball would be used onto his side, but it never happened in that case. So in that correction, you really want to like narrow that gap. Those discipline lines should be very narrow so you don't avoid that space. But for me, well taken goal. That's a very Champions League goal there for me. I think their post. Yeah, sure.
I think coaching moments from this, any youngster watching who's an offensive player, when the ball is played centrally, you need to secure. You don't need to risk, because if you risk and the opponents win the ball, they at this level, they take the ball, one pass, it ends in the back of the net. That's the zone. You are in that zone. You are in the consolidation phase. You can't lose the ball there.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you lose it, the window. Because as soon as they pick it up, it's one pass and it ends up in the back of the net.
Yeah.
That's something that Mamelodi Sundowns should learn from this, going into the final and say, we need to lessen such mistakes. Centrally, you can't lose the ball, because when you lose it with this type of quality, they put it in the net.
Yeah, I think another key for me is that Asho pass, the weight of the pass. We always speak about the weight of the pass. It's either it's longer, it's shorter, but just the weight of the pass and the striker to be able to use one touch, because of one of the moments we want to take another touch, and that's a recovery from a defender. But with this instant, it's just the weight of the pass is just peppling, pulled up to him, and then able to execute it.
Now, going into this game, there are, of course, a couple of question marks as far as that starting lineup for Mamelodi Sundowns is concerned. And one does imagine, Sudesh, that there will be even more question marks, particularly because in that second half, that final quarter, Coach Cardoso introduced or does go.
I think I'm laughing right now because I'm thinking about this goal. Yeah. You wouldn't think of a Sundowns goal to be played like this. Which for me, footballing goal, it's a hustle goal. Yeah. Everybody's hustling there, you know. You just put in the ball there, something will happen, something will give in, whereby even Reynolds was also in a position to sniff in there, anything like that. So for me, it's just sometimes you need one of those whereby Songobay is as pretty as it can be, but you just need that hustle. So for me, that's a hustle goal.
I love his bravery. Yeah. He's a very brave coach. He's not scared to make substitutions. Yeah. You look at, you saw that Mutiba was struggling a bit at left back. He did not hesitate. He looked at his bench, brought on Munga. You saw that Ribeiro was not having the best of games. And he says, Captain Fantastic is available for me. I can go quality for quality. He brings Mbazwani in. But then he looks at this defense of Alali, and he thinks they lack pace. Yeah. What can I do? Bring in Shalulile to take away space and time to press those defense, to make them panic. Then you've got a Reynolds that is making runs on the shoulder of the last defenders. Now you look at the goal that they end up scoring. It's those four players that are coming off the bench. The coach's influence, once again, looking at that bench, bringing on Lunga, Tembazwani. They get the touch. Lunga crosses the ball. Yeah. Mshishi with the flick. Then Reynolds is putting pressure. Shalulile is there. They end up getting the goal. So I need to give him credit to say he made the changes when the timing was right, and Mamelodi Sundowns gets the goal.
Mamelodi Sundowns indeed get the goal, unbeaten now in their last 7 Caf Champions League matches against Al Ahly. This time around, well worth a place in the final. So you look back at what happened last season. Yet again, Sundowns falling short at this stage. The man that is now in charge of them is the one that kicked them out last season. It's just football, isn't it?
Yeah, and you hope the bad luck doesn't follow him, because he lost in the final against Al Ahly last year when he was on the Esperance bench, you know. He did well to beat the Sundowns. But it's going to be an exciting game because a clash of different styles. He has changed the Sundowns style a bit. They've gone more the pragmatic route. Yeah. And you look at Pyramids are more your possession-based, high-pressing team with a very compact central area, you know, and outstanding individuals. I'm sure Adel Ibrahim would be fit and come back. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of team Cardoso lines up with. You know, he's been tinkering, changing it match to match, and it's got him to the final. So it's going to be exciting to see what he actually does when the final comes, you know.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we can safely say that Sundowns have sort of been imperfect on this run through to the final. And yes, for a lot of people, perhaps it's not to their palate how Sundowns are playing in this competition. Will that matter though?
Absolutely.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't, as long as you get the job done. Yeah. Because I think getting the job done is important. As I say, within them trying, look at that goal, it's the hustle goal. One would want to have a Sundowns goal whereby the shoe shining behind his combination, tapping inside in the net, whereby it won those.
No, it meant this is Sundowns.
No, Sudesh. We want to put
that's what Sundowns culture is. We must play and win.
But then look at what it has gotten them up to this far. The hustle go get you into the final. Yes, you'd want that, but you'd want that, of course, it will give you a lot of confidence. But more than anything for me is the process. Having to go to the semi-final, getting closer to a quarter-final, but then you're not reaching where you want to reach, which of course is gunning for the crown. Yeah, up to this far they haven't, but then now they've been able to find that lock, which is now getting to the final. Because I remember a team like Man City at one stage whereby they were getting closer. They lost to Tottenham in the final. They lost to Chelsea in the second. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But within time, then it came in that very historic manner whereby they beat Inter Milan. But it was there because of they were able to bang to that door. They banged to that door, and then eventually, at the right time and having the right manager, they were able to get into the final and be able to clinch it. So it could be that story for me.
I think the experience of Cardoso was key in this Mamelodi Sundowns team. I think the belief and the experience having been to a final. We know that we've been saying a lot that it's not pretty football. But in this competition, you don't need pretty football. You need to get the result, and he's gotten the result to get Mamelodi Sundowns to the final. You'll play Shushan and Piano here in the Betway Premiership. You'll play Shushan and Piano in the Kali Cup. But in the Champions League, you need to get results. Yeah. And he has pushed them to get them to this far. He was unlucky last season, losing in the final. That experience, what learnings did he take from that loss in the final? The experience that he gained in that final. A lot of international players at Mamelodi Sundowns, how does he get them to perform at their best at on the 24th and the 30th? That's key.
And some might say he was brought into Mamelodi Sundowns to do exactly what he's just done, and that is to get them at the very least to the championship match of the Caf Champions League. I can only imagine that at 919 Lifestyle out in Mamelodi, the celebrations are still continuing. Let's find out. Are they?
It's been absolutely incredible here in Mamelodi. The boys have made it through to the final. How we did it! Why did the boys wait until the very end to score? Okay, and then how are we feeling now that we're in the final? Before the final, it's Barcelona, this is Arsenal, and then we won the final. Yeah, in Mamelodi. From 919 Lifestyle, we've had an absolute blast. We're going to continue watching more games. We want to see who's going to be the opponent for Caballero. So, nothing back to you.
Thank you very much, Mobile. I wish I was there and not here with these gentlemen. We don't get what we want every single time, but that is pretty much all we've had for you then as far as the Caf Champions League semi-finals are concerned. Didn't quite get the final we might have wanted, but if we don't get an all-South African final in the Caf Champions League, perhaps we get a second South African team in the final of the Caf Confederation Cup.